for the high sign. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Going to call to order this Perrysburg Board of Education meeting on Monday, March 18th, 2024. Mr. Dreyer, roll call, please.
Ms. Roland Miller.
Here.
Ms. Larimer.
Here.
Ms. Minke. Dr. Reffert.
Here.
Mr. Bennington.
Here. I said we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'll say it is really nice to look out and see so many guests here tonight. I will start with a safety briefing. Perrysburg Schools welcomes you to the Commodore Building, and we thank you for attending tonight's Board of Education meeting. We care about the safety of our students, staff, families, and guests. Please note that there are exits on both the east and west sides of the cafeteria. In case of an emergency, an AED is located just outside the cafeteria doors. You are located at 140 East Indiana Avenue. Thank you for joining us tonight and supporting Perrysburg Schools. So next, can I have a motion to adopt the proposed agenda?
So moved.
Ms. Larimer,
Second.
Dr. Reffert. Jury roll call, please.
Ms. Larimer.
Yes.
Dr. Reffert.
Yes.
Ms. Roland Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Bennington.
Yes. The agenda is adopted. Next, we have some Board of Education recognition tonight. I will turn it over to you, Mr. Hostler.
All right, well, thank you, and appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I was going to say on a warm spring day, but that would be a lie. So, but we're like to introduce our PHS Social Studies teacher, Mr. Ron DiGregorio, and he'll introduce his guests and students.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Ron DiGregorio, and I serve as the 9th grade social studies teacher at Perrysburg High School, teaching primarily government. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me a few minutes to talk to you guys this evening about a special program that we started at the high school a couple years ago. This is our 3rd year of running the Americanism in Government test, which is put on by the American Legion. And like I said, 2 years ago we started this tradition. This is our 3rd year running it. And the objective of this test is twofold. First, we want to encourage a healthy, active, participatory knowledge of our government history and civic engagement. But secondly, it's also to inspire students to learn more about their government, the United States, and to appreciate the freedoms enjoyed by all of our citizens. Before I go into our students this evening, I want to tell you just a little bit about the test in case you're not familiar. On average, over 65,000 students participate in this test statewide. The initial field of 65,000 students is narrowed to 84 district winners throughout several judging levels in the state, and winning test papers are then submitted to a judging committee. From those 84 district winners, the state judging committee selects 18 winners statewide, so 18 out of the initial 65,000. The state, the award for the 18 state winners is a 5-day, all-expense-paid trip to Gettysburg and Washington, D.C. under direction of the Department of Americanism Director, accompanied by representatives of the Ohio American Legion and the Ohio American Legion Auxiliary. Over the past 2 years, more than 250 students have taken the time on a football Friday afternoon to sit for this exam. The cost is free, but it does require a sacrifice of a football Friday afternoon. So while students could be going home and getting ready for the game, they instead take an hour and sit with us for this test. The test is a 50-question assessment consisting of true and false, multiple choice, and fill-in-the-blank style questions. In addition, there is a 300-word essay that is given as part of the assessment, and the topic is randomized each year. And so they take the test, they write their essay, and then they're out. From there, their test goes on, and the judging persists, and tonight... Can you hear me? Oh, that's a lot different. Tonight, I'd like top scoring students in the boy and girl category from grades 10 through 12. Freshmen are allowed to take the test, but their scores are not counted. The actual prizes are only for sophomore through senior level. Most of the winners tonight are not present, but we do have a few. But I would like to recognize all of their achievements. So for our 10th grade boys and girls, the top scorers were Andrew in 11th grade, we had Ronald Hershey, who I do want to note was our top male scorer for the 10th grade last year as well. So back-to-back top scorers. And Sama Shahata. In 12th grade, Jack Allcroft and Tanisha Dakawi. And it's important to note that not only are these 6 students not only the top scoring in their grade at the high school, but all 6 of them were also the top scorers in their respective grades for the entirety of Wood County. So not only just for our own school, but for the entire county, all 6 of them top scorers. At this time, I would like to take the opportunity at this time to call a special attention to 3 of our students who are here this evening, Andrew Billings, Hannah Noel, and Sama Shahata. So if you 3 could please come on up to the podium. Andrew and Hannah were our top scoring students this year in the sophomore grade level and Sama at the junior grade level. Their tests proceeded throughout the competition. It's my pleasure to announce that these 3 students were selected as 3 of those 18 statewide winners and were chosen to represent Perrysburg High School on their trip to Gettysburg in Washington, D.C. Hannah and Andrew were able to recently complete the trip and by all reports had an amazing experience. And we are incredibly proud of all 3 of these students and all of the students for sitting for the test and achieving excellence at the state level. Please join me in recognizing these 3 as well as all of our students who sat for and were recognized with excellence on this test. I'd also like to introduce Mr. Joe Howell, who's representing the American Legion this evening, to make a few remarks.
Thank you, Mr. DiGregorio. So I was the one. My name is Joe Howell. I'm the vice commander for Post 28 here in Perrysburg. So I help administer the A&G test every year with him. We get a pretty good number, 40 to 50 students per year. That seems to get more increased each time. So they come out, do it on their own. I grade all the tests myself on a day that I'm off. Take a lot of pride in it. But to cover some of the things that he already went over, I don't go into too great detail, but last year we had 1 go to state. We had 3 that won district last year. This year we had 3 at the state level, and we cleared house with all 6 winning the district. The district's actually 18 counties encompassing, so I mean, this just shows how great of a school Perrysburg High School is, and as well as the great teachers and staff that we have there as well. So on behalf of Post 28, I would like to recognize these 3 with $100 checks each for their great efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll come over here and take a quick picture.
Legionnaires, want to come up?
Yeah, please get in the
Yes,
picture. It's so
please.
nice to see you guys here.
Please. Yes, please, get in a picture with them.
It sounded a little bit like an order.
We're used to them.
Yeah. You squeezed together there. That's awesome. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Howell, once again, thank you for, bringing the American Legion, bringing this type of exposure to the Perrysburg School District, and those numbers and the continuous kind of improvement and more students that we have doing this is just outstanding. And Q3 award winners on behalf of the school board, a heartfelt, congratulations, and that is really rare air. 65,000 down to 18, down to 3 that are represented right here in this room. I'm in awe.
Yeah.
So congratulations again. Let's give them one more hand.
Great work. And the room clears out. You can't tell my brothers.
Okay, we're not done yet. Another one of my favorite agenda items every year, Mr. Hostler.
Yes, thank you. I know that it doesn't seem like it should be this way, but prom is just around the corner. And so we wouldn't be able to host the prom and certainly the after prom activities that are so appreciated by our students and families without the help of supporters. And I know Mr. Abke would like to talk about one special donor and spend a few moments sharing a little bit about that. So, Mr. Abke.
Great. Well, I'll invite Rick and Stacy and Mary up here as well. It's always fun when I get to be here because it usually means, you know, somebody's making a financial contribution, we're recognizing volunteers, or we're talking about a great program, and tonight we get to check all those boxes. So thank you for having me, and again, I'm just here to hand it off to the people that are really making this happen. So as Tom mentioned, I was talking to Rick Ruffner from Oh Dear Diner here, who's been a longtime supporter of the after prom, and in fact, I'm not going to steal his thunder. He's got the stats for this gift tonight, puts him over the next benchmark, I think. Yeah. So, but I talked to him about how the first opening season of ice cream season went, and said tonight's not so great, but Friday was beautiful. So, so Rick and his team over at Oh Dear have done the car show out here for many years, and raise a lot of great dollars, bring a lot of community support, but bring some great dollars to a great program, which is our after prom program, which as you can imagine what after prom is, it has grown since Rick was telling me he had a different after prom back in 1982, 81. 81. Well, I made you younger anyway. So, and so then that also gives us a great opportunity to talk about the hard work that committee is doing under the direction of Mary Heyer and Stacy Geisler, who have taken the reins this year and taken it over in a good way, because the previous volunteers' kids had all graduated. So I will turn it over to Rick to make the actual check presentation, but we want to thank Rick for their continued support of the school, certainly in this way, but in so many other ways as well. So Rick?
Yep. Sure. My name is Rick Ruffner. Obviously, most of you know me. My wife and I do have a great appreciation for the school system here. We graduated from here, both of us. We've invested heavily in this community, but we love the schools. And good luck tomorrow. I really hope you guys do well. But letting us use the grounds outside is really a great thing for our business, and I think it's good for the schools as well and the community. So yes, I do have a check to present for $3,369 this year, which puts my grand total just shy of $31,000 since we've been doing this. I know it's a great event these ladies put on. It's great for the kids and everything. So I have a lot of kids that work over at my ice cream store from Perrysburg Schools. 2 of them over there tonight. I told them I was coming over here to make this presentation. So they all get to participate in the after prom. So it's a great event. So I'll turn it over to the ladies now. And here's the check for this year. So thank you very much. You're welcome.
So we are very thankful for this money. If there is any other sponsors out there that would like to hand over money, we are always glad to take that. Actually, we have a meeting tonight to kind of finalize some of the activities, but it is open to all seniors and their guests. And last year we had over 400 kids come. So we just want to provide a safe place for them to come after their prom.
I don't think I have anything more to add. This year's theme is passing the torch. We're doing an Olympic theme. Oh, cool. So yeah.
You are passing the torch?
Yeah. Well, I think Mary and I are going to be around for another year at least. We both have seniors this year, and we have upcoming seniors next year. So we'll be here at least another year. But thank you so much, Rick, for all your support. It really means a lot, and we appreciate it so much. So thank you. Yeah. Round of applause for you.
Go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Joe, can't have both men.
You gotta be in the middle here. Okay.
Best of luck this year with the after prom, and thank you for doing that. And Mr. Ruffner, again, thank you for not only what you do for the district, but really for the overall community. It is really appreciated. So thank you again. All right, that is unfortunately the end of board recognition tonight. So I think we're okay moving on from the 4.5 minute or the break.
Reserve the right to
Reserve the right
circle
to do it
back.
later.
Okay. We always reserve the right to circle back.
Also, in the A&G test, I don't think there's any actual
Just
appropriate.
side of- okay. So I will, I'll say two things here. So one, I've got the sign-in list for the first public participation session, but I don't believe we have anybody that's here to make any comments, but I will scan the crowd just in case we didn't read that right. Doesn't look like it, okay. So then also, we're about ready to do a little bit more of we're ready to do the superintendent's report. We're ready to do a little bit more of the business of the board. So, now is always a good time to sneak out if you want to, but you're welcome to, and we encourage you to stay. So, with that, Mr. Hausler,
All right,
we'll turn it
thanks.
over for the superintendent's report.
Yeah, as I pull this up, it's just incredible, the support that we've gotten from Rick. And, there was a time when we had a significant donor for the after prom. And going into the prom season, the donor pulled out and left a huge hole for the prom committee, which is a really tough and sometimes thankless job to plan to entertain teenagers all evening. So that's a daunting task. So Rick said, I have this idea. We could start a car show. We'll collect money, at each of the shows, and we'll donate that towards, the after prom. So he's done the 50-50, and to hear he's hit that $31,000 plateau is incredible, and we're grateful for the parents who are doing a terrific job there. So we'll jump into the superintendent's report. A few things here. We know that our families that we serve in Perrysburg come in many different shapes and sizes. And some of those families actually have, at the head of the families raising children, grandma and grandpa. So at Frank Elementary, in conjunction with Wood County ESC, we're hosting a support group for grandparents raising children. It's a surprising number. And we're grateful for those grandparents who are stepping up to do this in many cases. So, and that's April 18th and May 9th from 6 to 7:30. And again, I think it's a reflection of thinking about how can we meet and serve our families where they need to be met. And so we're grateful for that. This past week, we had an exciting event, but certainly stemming from a somber moment. But at Woodland, Nicole Hancock, who was the Parents Club president at Woodland, unfortunately passed away last summer after a courageous battle. And the goal and the things that they wanted to do, especially connected to what she did in her life, which was working at Toledo Public Schools in their health nutrition coordinator, it was to make sure that students at Woodland had snacks available to them. And we often think about, we're in a very good place here in Perrysburg where students can have, snacks that they bring from home, and that's not the case for many, many students. So to have this opportunity to have the ability to provide students who might be hungry, who maybe don't have the resources to have snacks, they will always have this, and the Snack Shack is Nikki's Snack Shack will be something that students will appreciate for many years to come. There's a way to donate, and it's available on the slide there. But we're certainly grateful that of all the things to do to remember and honor her, that this is something that they chose. And something that was very meaningful for them. So we're grateful for that opportunity. If you are interested in driving a $100,000 vehicle, if you've ever had that desire, we have a great opportunity for you. So on Saturday, March 23rd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., we're having a drive a bus day where interested people can come out and say, you know, let's see what this is all about. You get to drive a $100,000 vehicle and learn a little bit about what this kind of career is. Our bus drivers here are very professional. They're a great team. We have a great leader. And they're the first ones to greet the students in the morning, and they sometimes set the tone for how that student's going to have their day. And they're the last ones to see the students off. And for many, many students, I've heard that their bus drivers are sometimes the only people that smile at them for a long time. And so we're very grateful for what they do. And if you want to be part of a team, this is a tremendous way to do that. So we've started an active Instagram account, and you can follow us at Perrysburg Schools. And we really enjoy featuring our staff and really showcasing what great things they're doing each and every day. So we understand that social media is a platform that sometimes connects with different age groups, and yet I think this is a continued outreach to families, again, meeting them where they are, and also meeting our constituents and our community where they are. And we're always looking for that, so that's exciting. March 3rd and 9th, we celebrated School Social Work Day. We've talked about how grandparents sometimes have to stand up to be parents and parenting their grandchildren. And there are many things and resources that are out there available to help them, and we just talked about one of those a moment ago. We understand that there are families that struggle in many different ways and need support, from the homeless families that we serve to students and families that are in crisis. And we have two great social workers that are here who know how to make those connections and to give folks the resources that they need to make sure their students are successful. So we're very grateful for all that they do for us. So I want you to think about the class of 2037, because we're registering the students of the class of 2037 right now. So if you want to do that, there's a link here to begin the registration process for next fall. I don't know how many of us will be around in 2037, but we understand that it's exciting to see families now beginning to register, and you can certainly tell the difference between the families that this is their first child going through kindergarten and how everything is filled out and is completed, and it's a big moment. And then the families that have had 3 or 4 kids go through, and they show up a little later in the summer and they're not sure when school starts. We're not judging, but it's great that we're underway. We're very honored to host a free public event on Tuesday, April 16th at Perrysburg Junior High School at 6 p.m. So Dr. Butter, in 1943, as a young lady, she was born in Berlin and had to flee Germany, and was actually staying with Dutch families, and then when that became occupied, rounded up with her family and sent to an intern camp, and then to a work camp, a concentration camp. And her story and journey, how that went and what they had to do to survive and escape, is certainly something that is very moving and very timely for the world that we live in today. And so we're grateful that she is here to share her message, message with us. And we've been fortunate to get support to bring different speakers from that era to talk about these experiences that Jewish families had to endure, and how it changed them. And so that pool of speakers who had that firsthand experience is certainly shrinking every single day. So we're very grateful that we remain a great partner to help share this And we applaud the staff there for making this available, and also the schools foundation that made this possible. So we're grateful for that. We do have on our website a new FAQ section, and as individuals email us about a whole variety of things, we're very grateful that we can capture those questions and begin to post answers and responses too. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, I encourage you to spend a few moments, and the link is here in the slides, and you can head out there to take a look. And it's pretty complete, and we're adding to it all the time, so that's great. We had 5 musicians that competed in the OMEA All-State Orchestra, and these folks here were all recognized and named All-State musicians, so we're very grateful for all that they've done. That's a big deal. When you think about athletics qualifying for district, regionals, and states, our orchestra has that same, and musicians and choir and band performers have that same opportunity, and it's very, very competitive. We received a $1,200 grant from the Northwestern Water and Sewer District, and we had individuals come out and present the award to the staffs at HPI and TOEF, and you know, certainly the understanding of the importance of water is significant, and our students are really understanding how this works, and the activities that they're doing with the collection of rainwater, and then also to demonstrate the use of fish water to repurpose that in growing things, and how that can be done at HPI is pretty impressive, the study that they're putting together for that. So, but we're very fortunate that we have folks that are really raising awareness about the importance of water, being so close to the river, and understanding the importance of, you know, rainwater and water that goes into storm sewers, how that really does get to ditches and ultimately to the river and into the lake and into our drinking water, and that whole process. And being more aware is very important for our students today. We have some great events that are coming up. The musical Little Shop of Horrors will be here premiering on April 25th, and you can see the dates there. And Perrysburg Junior High School Band Spring Concert also scheduled for April 25th. So we're excited about those events coming up. Box office for senior citizens activity passes are available to get your use your Stinger passes on April 22nd. A reminder that calendar changes are set for March 19th and May 7th. You can recall that the original calendar that we adopted a couple years ago had the May primary date, but this is a presidential year, so the primary was moved up to tomorrow. So we did switch that. So we don't want students showing up to school tomorrow. I mean, they're welcome to, especially if they're 18 and can vote. But they'll be turned away because it's election day. So staff will be here and report. So we swapped those 2 dates. So wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about tomorrow. And actually had an opportunity to dig through some things that people have said about me or posted about me, which is always very interesting. And it brings us to a point, I think, that's important. You know, Rick is here and reminded me, Rick Ruffner, with the gift that he gave. But my grandfather used to say, if you want everyone to like you, you should sell ice cream. And so obviously I'm not in the business of selling ice cream. And in fact, I've chosen a profession to work with young students today, which is the best profession that you can choose. And I'm honored to do what I do and to serve the Board of Education, which continues to make decisions in the best interest of the students we serve. And like me, you all sometimes take those slings and arrows. But when you're doing the things for the right reasons and you're focusing on the students and the future that we have in this community, you can kind of tolerate some of the things that are here. And we always keep that in our minds in what we do, because it's not easy always doing the right things. And you know, we hear you in terms of the community. The last thing that, and I know this will come as a shock to some people, but the last thing that I want to be involved in is trying to pass levies and bond issues. As you can see from the slide before, it's not a fun spot to be, personally or professionally. But it is necessary to do what we need to do as a community. We'd rather focus on ensuring all students can achieve their greatest potential, because that really is what drives us each and every day. We work incredibly hard to stretch every penny to do what we need to do for our students. And, you know, we had Jeff Abke here, which is a reminder that we were one of the first districts in Ohio to have a development program that raised private funds. Almost $8 million collected today by Jeff and his team that have gone to help students and staff here in Perrysburg. We stretch every single penny. We find ways to find dollars to make a difference. We understand that, you know, revenue changes, and we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about taxes and how they work. And while revenue rises and falls with the state formula or local tax collections, it's not enough to build a new building, which is something that we know we need and why we're asking the voters for their help. We also know that, and we'll talk a little bit about this, but a yes vote on the schools is not a yes vote to continued growth. We are a reflection of the school community, and it's growing. And as a result, we're growing. And that's something that, that we want to make sure people understand, that this board has not voted on any developments, any multifamily units. And you know, we've been working hard at not only managing our dollars, but we've also been working very hard at bringing in additional dollars. We just talked about the water grant. We just saw Jeff Abke present that, an award. But we also have been very active in trying to change state funding in a meaningful way. And that's something that we do. So for folks who are upset about why property taxes, I just wanted to take a little bit of time, and I know Mr. DiGregorio left, so this is kind of a history lesson. But going all the way back, Thomas Jefferson said that, you know, education was really the cornerstone to this new nation that we had. And the Northwest Ordinances of 1785 and 1787 provided land just for public schools. Set it aside. It was that important as they carved out this country. And that was very important. Ohio as a state was formed, and they began to question, how are we going to take care of funding public education in Ohio? And so if you're really angry about property taxes in Ohio, you need to find the graves of these folks here. So Caleb Atwater and Governor Trimble and Nathan Gulford, because they're the ones that said, here's what we're going to do. And in 1825, they passed a $500,000 property tax in Ohio that went directly to funding public schools in Ohio. So that's where this whole idea of, you know, property taxes came from, and that tradition and linkage to where we are today. We talked about the state funding, and we'll get a little bit more into this, but Cupp-Patterson, the Fair School Funding Plan, was something that was created out of frustration. Representatives Cupp and Patterson, Republican from Lima, a Democrat from Northeast Ohio. Very rare in the state that a Democrat and Republican would kind of cross the aisle and work together, but these two did. And it's even more rare that they chose school funding, which has been just like climbing Mount Everest. You know, you can get stuck on the side of that mountain, never reach the top. And that was the history of trying to fix school funding in Ohio. But they came together and they worked on coming up with a solution that was centered around our students and the students throughout Ohio. And so I was very fortunate to be a part of that. And today we're 2/3 of the way of fully funding it. So we're not yet there, where we're realizing the full benefits, but we're beginning to feel the positive benefits, especially in a growing district like Perrysburg. This goes towards the operational aspect and not the construction aspect. But operationally, we've been very fortunate, and across the state, we've seen an increase in the amount of money flowing to public schools. One thing that we hear is, what is Perrysburg doing to try to make a difference with state funding? And here's a list of the opportunities that this board has extended to me to testify since 2017, to talk about the need of what we need to do and how we can do it differently. And so I'm very grateful for that opportunity. It's been a lot of trips back and forth, but if we're not offering our voice, then whose voice is there trying to make a difference? And you can see some of the different times, and whether it's the Senate or House or subcommittee or joint committee, we've had to go down and answer the call many, many times. And so very grateful to have that opportunity to give a voice. And I can say that people respect the words because they understand what kind of a district Perrysburg is and what it means. So getting into
Mr. Haas, if I could just
Yeah,
interrupt
yeah.
real quick, and on behalf of the board, thank you for your leadership in all of that space. You as well, Mr. Drew, you guys do this as leaders, not just in the district, but I hear it in the state. And I too get the letters saying, why aren't you going down, why are you collectively going down to Columbus to try and reverse some of these levy patterns and the school funding? And it's like, we are. So again, I appreciate, one, you bringing that to light in your report, and two, just the effort to do it, because you don't have an easy day job. And to balance both of these is commendable.
And I know Mr. Dreyer was the last one down to testify, so he continues to carry that torch, and we work well together, and thank you for that. And again, we're fortunate to have, that platform, and we want to use it for good. Getting into data, I know there's a lot of discussions about what kind of data is out there, and we have people that make different kinds of comments about the district, and here too, we're going to get into some data here that I think is important. So first, Perrysburg School Administrative Ratio is 154 students per one administrator. The state average is 119.6 students per administrator, so we're well below the state average. And that's something that has been consistent with other measurements and other tools that have been used to assess, that ratio. Our administrators are very committed, very dedicated, and work very hard to support our teachers, our students, and our families. And so, having that number continue to rise isn't necessarily a good thing. But it is important to note exactly where we stand. We're over $1,000 below the state average in terms of per pupil what it costs to educate a student in Ohio. So with 5,800 students in the district times $1,000, if we spent the state average, we know that would be a significant dollar amount just spending what the average is in the state. And our academic abilities here and measurements, whether it be with AP testing, the state report card, ACT, SAT, we are one of the top performers consistently in the region and across the state. Whether it's private schools or public schools, we're leading in so many categories. One of the things that's unique about Perrysburg in this chart here is looking at the number of, the percent of the income that we receive on local businesses. And so this is something I wanted to spend a little bit of time on because, as you can see here that for every local dollar that comes in, roughly 20 cents of that dollar is coming in from local businesses. You can see some of our other area districts. Rossford's almost at over 46% is coming from businesses. So what that means is that we are certainly relying more heavily on local residents, homeowners, because of the lack of commercial business that is here in the district. And that creates a real challenge for us because businesses, Certainly when a business opens, it brings in a lot of tax revenue. It does not bring in any children, and we don't have to ask the businesses to raise the taxes on their homes and vote on that. So businesses are something that is important. So when we talk about growth and development in the community, our interest has always been on trying to find a healthy blend between the reliance on residents and businesses, local businesses. And we'd like to see that percentage actually increase. And you can see, how that works, really in many ways against districts like Perrysburg. And Anthony Wayne, Perrysburg, Sylvania, among the lowest in the region. And that creates a unique challenge for us financially. We talk about this state formula not being fully funded yet, and so we're looking forward to the next biennium budget when we can receive the full funding of that. But one of the things that happens with the formula is there's kind of a measurement that as communities' wealth grows, the state begins to look at it and say, you as a local community, you're growing in your valuation. Your community is becoming wealthier. You don't need us as a state as much anymore. You have the ability to ask your local community to support you more. And that's not a popular thing to hear, and it's not a popular thing to say. And I think that's something that is a challenge for us. So one of the questions that we hear is, we're a growing community. What are you doing with all the tax dollars that you're receiving? And so this next chart is one of the things I think that helps explain that. So going back to 2014, in 2014, for every dollar that came into the district, 27 cents of it came from Columbus. And would you say that we have become, more businesses since 2014? Have we added more students? Has the valuation of our community grown? And the answer, of course, is yes, it has. So what is the state share? So the state share has dropped 8%. So for every dollar that comes in, 19 cents is coming from the state. The state is saying, you're able to collect more. The value of your community is rising. We're going to send you less. And that's how that formula works. And you can see here, Anthony Wayne, Perrysburg, Sylvania, who those three districts, again, going back to the previous slide, rely more heavily on homeowners. And so the state is continuing to see these districts are growing, and then that revenue begins to go away. At Seago, which is more rural, very stable enrollment, and you can see that there was no change during that time. Washington Local, urban, you can see just a little bit of a change during that time. So again, it is a challenge as we continue to move forward. That's why getting this formula fully funded will help us realize more revenue from the state, which is important. But we're not there, and certainly this question of well, what are you doing with all those tax dollars? There's three answers to that. So this is one of them: is the more that we get, the more wealth we have locally, the formula shifts. And we have to rely more heavily on the local folks. We've talked about this, but House Bill 920 passed in 1976. It was a circuit breaker because inflation was really rising rapidly. People's wages were stagnant, and the state was saying, back then, if you have a 4 mil levy before 1976 and that 4 mil levy generated $4 million, if all that valuation and new business moves in and housing developments go in, that next year you're collecting 4 mils, and on that community with all the new businesses, you might be collecting $6 million instead of 4. So House Bill 920 said we're going to fix that, circuit breaker. So after 1976, if you pass a 4 mil levy and it collects $4 million, all that development and growth happens, a new plant comes in, manufacturing, housing development. you can only collect that next year $4 million. So no longer are you collecting 4 mils on the new values and the new businesses, but you can only collect the amount you need to get to that $4 million. So it might be 3.5 mils that are now being applied to get to 4 million. So this is just a different way to look at it. As local, home values impact, continue to rise, the valuation businesses, we see that fixed rate for school collections, fall. Since 1976, one of the unintended consequences is there have been over 11,000 school levies in Ohio. Not just Perrysburg, and I wanted to note that because people in Perrysburg think there's been 11,000 since 1976. But this is kind of where we are. And he, Randy did a great job, so I'm going to steal his thunder a little bit, but from one of his previous presentations, voters here have voted to apply 47.5 mils. So before 1976, today we would be collecting 47.5 mils. After 1976, we can only collect that dollar amount that the voters approved. So we're now collecting 17.7 mils. And you can take a look, and Randy did a great job of kind of breaking this down. And you can see where those voted mills are there. There are some mills that aren't subject to House Bill 920, and those are inside mills. Every county in Ohio, all 88, have 10 mills that the county commissioners can apply on behalf of different government entities in the county. Our county is applying 4.8 mils, so that does grow. But when we're talking about, over 45.6 mils, 4.8 mils is not a lot to make a change, but we do get growth off of that. And then we have fixed rate where we set a dollar amount that we're going to collect each year, and we have a millage rate that's expiring at the end of this year that does that. And then we can get the 20 mil floors there, and Randy, spent time explaining that, and that's where this chart came from. Also, Randy, from November, after the bond issue failed, began to set aside more and more dollars out of our budget for growth, for trailers, for converting classroom space. So this is something that you can see here from, a nominal amount at one time to now $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million that we know we're going to need moving forward, because as this chart shows, we're adding students every year at every grade level. And since, we talked about the class of 2037, well, the class of 2025 began in the fall of 2011, and they've added 88 students since they began. This current junior class has added 144 students since they were kindergartners. And we're having to set aside dollars because we know that's what happens here. The age of our buildings, the average elementary is over 54 years old, and people still talk about Fort Meigs at 34 years old being a new building. And we know 40 years out, the ages of those buildings are going to be, the average is going to be 71.
It's one of those buildings we just built.
Right.
Right.
So
Those is 34 years.
the facilities committee spent 14 months. We had over 50 people part of that. They looked at so many different things, from the cost and impact of doing nothing. And we just showed you the 5-year forecast is beginning to reflect that. What should we demolish buildings? Should we have a goal of eliminating trailers? Should we build a second junior high? Should we make HPI an elementary? Should we build 2 high schools? And they went through all of these different options and came up with the recommendation that the board heard when they presented their findings to the board. So tomorrow, voters will have an opportunity to basically solve a math equation. And the math equation is, we know in 2040 how many new students that we're projected to have. And if we bring preschool back, we know how many students will be displaced at Frank as we bring in over 200 preschoolers into that building. And that number is 1,400. And if we divide that by, say, 25, we know that by 2040, we will need about 60 classrooms. This ballot issue will deliver about 69 classrooms. It's a math equation. So for the folks who are out there saying, we need to, cut this down, where do we do that? Where does that happen? Do we cut 10 or 15 classrooms off? Because that's what we're really trying to achieve here with this ballot issue. And so that's, I think, really important as we look at this. Some folks have said, let's just build two elementaries. So building 2 elementaries would keep all of those 4 elementaries in play, and it would expand our operational costs significantly to operate 2 brand new elementaries, 2 new principals, 4 new secretaries, 6 new custodians, an entire food service team in both, custodians. You start going through the numbers, and it's significant. The committee was very focused on keeping this footprint the way that it is. Last week, WTOL ran a story here and interviewed somebody about the ballot issue, and it was a retired teacher, not from Perrysburg, but from somewhere else. And this is her quote: "I support schools. I do not support the development of Perrysburg all the way to Bowling Green. Perrysburg has gotten outrageously large." She said she hasn't made up her mind about how she's going to vote. And she said, "I'm very conflicted because I want to vote for the school, but I feel like I'm voting for more development." And that's a problem. And we heard that in November, and we're hearing that today. And if you vote no, we know that housing developments, and the city has over, I think, 1,400 developments that are approved or in the pipeline to be approved. That will happen. Those kids have to go somewhere, and we can't turn them away.
Right.
So this board has never once voted for growth or development or rezoning anything ever. And just a reminder, going back to almost a year ago to today, I had an opportunity to do a presentation about growth in the schools to the Planning Commission, where we talked about the impact that this was having. Last December is a letter that was sent to City Council about rezoning requests that would convert commercial property, and we talked about commercial property and how we like commercial property to keep that balance and doing away with commercial property for more multi-family units. We sent a letter saying we don't want to be there, and we attended the meeting. And last month, another letter to the Planning Commission saying, specifically, there are things on your agenda that folks are asking to do exactly what we talked about back a year ago and in December. We're advocating on behalf of our students because we don't have room. And we are putting our voice out there, and we have been. And so for the folks that like to send emails and letters to you about, the growth, and to the person who spoke about being conflicted, we're doing what we can to educate the community, to educate those decision makers, to do what's best for our students. And that continues to be it. So for tomorrow, the board, to remind folks, the board chose to kind of phase in this ballot issue. So if the levy is successful tomorrow, your taxes will not change in 2024. Because the board looked at this, Randy was very creative in figuring out a way to meet the community and their needs. In 2025, your taxes will go up 0.85 mils. So on a $100,000 home value, it is $2.48 increase per month. So if you have a $300,000 home, you multiply $2.48 times 3. So in 2025, that's how much your taxes will go up. And then 2026, and this was really masterful on Randy's part and the board's part, the remaining balance will be applied in 2026, 2.65 mils. But the reason the board chose to kind of phase this in is because in 2026, we're retiring 1.85 mils. So the net change is 0.8 mils. So the total net difference that homeowners will experience is 1.65 mils. and so that amounts to $4.82 per month for $100,000 value. This chart is kind of another way to show it. So it's taking that explanation that we walked you through and converting it to kind of an easy way. So you can see here, $100,000, $250,000, $500,000, and how that net number is. And I think, it really reflects the board's listening to the community about the costs and what can we do to help make this possible, for our students. So what's at stake? We know that if it's not approved, we can't turn kids away. We joked at the one elementary, like when a new family comes in to register, just turn off the lights and act like you're not home, and maybe they'll go away. We don't have that option, but we do know that the answer is more trailers and converting more space. When we did the community tours of our elementary buildings, and I know many board members attended those, to see the music room at Woodland on the stage next to the gym with a divider there, so you have kids that are kicking balls and doing things in the gym and bouncing up against that divider in the music class there, because that's where we are. And that's a building that is already well over capacity. So we understand what's at stake. And we know we've had so many community members who understand that this is a very difficult situation, and we know how proud they are to be a Jacket, to be part of the Perrysburg community, and they're wanting to support us, and I think this ballot issue does that. It gives them a reason to support us. I think the board's done a masterful job of that. We're grateful for the dialogue in the community. We understand that this is complicated, and we understand the time that people have taken to go to the source, to go to the FAQ, to look up and find out for themselves, and we are grateful for that opportunity. We want to continue earning the community's trust, and we're always striving to do that with everything that we do. And it's not just about being on the ballot. It's about being partners in this community and being an economic engine that will attract growth, the right kind of growth for schools in the community in the future. And we work very hard to stretch our dollars, to find those additional dollars. And we're grateful for the support the community gives us to ensure all students achieve their greatest potential. So we're at a place that's pretty critical. We're at a place where we have a plan that meets our needs, not our wants. And we're ready to take that next step. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Bennington.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hassler. Thank you for that. As always, very data-driven. And one of the criticisms that is still these 8 years or so on the board is the accusations that the district isn't being transparent. And I just between open checkbook and the board presentations, now the FAQs, I always have trouble hearing that, accepting that, because that just isn't true. The information is certainly out there for those willing to go take a look at it. I'll get off my soapbox here. Any questions or other comments for Mr. Hassler?
I see Rachel getting ready to go. Rachel, I had a question for you. On the Instagram slide that he had, it said at Perrysburg Schools, there was an exclamation point. Is the exclamation point included in the Instagram? No, that was just for emphasis. Okay. Yeah, I know. It was a big deal. So thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure that was clarified. And Tom, going back to one of the presentations that you made back in the fall, I will reiterate that who wants to pay more taxes? It's certainly not me. And I totally get the arguments. The chart that you had on here, the cost estimator for the 3.5 mil ballot issue, I think is so clear and so easy to understand. Look at the left column. If you don't like charts, look at the left column, then look at the right, and then that tells you what it's going to be in 2026. And I think that's something that just about everybody can do. And in retrospect, I am still impacted by the slide that you had in the fall, where coming off of World War II, which was devastating, not only to the world, but especially to the United States and every community. Perrysburg was no different. That community gave to us in our day 2 elementary schools in 1 decade. That just so impacted me, because what an incredible sacrifice they had to think through and provide for us. And here we are using those facilities to the max at this particular point in time. And I will be at one of those tomorrow all day, starting at 5:30, so come join me, stop by and say hi. It let me know that if you can come off of World War II and all the trauma that you're trying to deal with then in the 50s, that you can still see the need for your students and your school district and the caring for your district. I just feel a need to respect that history that was given to us to enjoy today, that people, 50 years, 40 years down the road can look back at us and say, thank y'all for doing this for us because we so desperately need it now. And I can't get past that. To me, that was my driving force to say yes, Because obviously, if I'm working the polls tomorrow, I had to already vote, so there's that. But this, excellent presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the work that you put into that. It's like you do a thesis every time. It just, you make it look so easy.
I appreciate you including the letters that you sent to the city. We're accused all the time that, we're part of the growth. We can't stop people from selling their land. We just can't, obviously. Unfortunately, there's a lot of land still left. There's been that, there was a study in one of these presentations about how much if we sold every piece of farmland, how many more occupants we would have. So I appreciate, Mr. Hostler, the time that you're spending educating others, because, there was, especially the one about Harbor View, changing the rezoning on that could have been a lot of multiple occupancy, as well as the warehouse that was, factory that's over there on close to downtown. They had a rezoning as well. So thank you for all of this. I've lived in Northwest Ohio my whole life. I've lived in Perrysburg for 20 years. I voted in every election, and not once do I recall ever not being informed, and that's a personal choice. And I think that's, if people say that we're not transparent and the district isn't transparent, that's on them for not finding that information. And I think when you're talking about, veterans and paying it forward, my grandma passed away at 99, my great uncle passed away at 92, and we always talked about the importance of education, always, and how important it was to do for others what somebody had done for them, and I keep that in my heart, and I always have whenever we vote for a school levy. So again, thank you for putting this out there and praying for the best, because our students need it and deserve it.
So does our staff.
Yes. Agreed. Thank you.
I think one of the things in the last couple weeks and that your presentation points at is I think I keep hearing from very concerned people that they want to find a solution to this, and yet every solution that they came forward with was not legal in the state of Ohio, or really increased costs, like the operating costs, the 2 school solutions. And so I think it's been a really interesting time to be able to communicate, to inform, to try to share more. I think the community is getting more engaged and more educated, because it is complicated. And I think that the facilities committee did such a great job sorting through the complicated parts and the funding pieces. I really appreciate, I love history, and so I really liked your slides that reminded us of the fact that our community, our state, the city was built on public education, that's always been a priority. And from a faith perspective, it was oftentimes people of faith that stepped forward and said that every child is going to be educated in our community, and made that possible. and made it possible for the laws to reflect that. So I really appreciate that. And again, our students need this. We need to pay it forward. Many of us don't have children in the district anymore, but our children benefited from those who gave before us, and I hope to pay it forward after tomorrow too.
Ms. Menke?
I think the facts speak for themselves.
It's not lost on me to your comment that we've got public school history here when members of the American Legion are here as well, too. So noted that. So, well, again, if there's nothing else, then thank you very much, Mr. Hostler,
Thanks.
for your presentation. Mr. Dreyer?
Follow that,
We
Randy.
will, yeah. Dazzle us with your
It's very
treasures
simple. It's just shut up and sit down, I think, is the way to do this. Tom's loading me up here. No, I tell you, just to echo a couple things, appreciate, it's nice to have a superintendent who understands school finance. So I'm not a party of one anyway. And Tom's a great partner, and it's nice to, again, Eric, you hit on it, that in my professional association, everyone asks me how it is to work at Perrysburg and work with Tom, because that's the kind of reputation we have.
Yep.
And it's just a lot of pride to be able to go to Columbus and you say Perrysburg and people take notice, So it's really nice. My presentation, fortunately, is relatively short tonight because it's boring. I mean, it's the same old story to some extent. We are cruising through the fiscal year and pretty much on track with our spending and revenues. We're at 94 cash days. 90 would be kind of the nice place to be. Now we know we won't stay there because of how the revenues flow, but 94 days is not bad. We are at 3.5% increase year over year on the revenue side, and 4% increase on the expense side. Again, those are tracking pretty well as expected. The only really anomaly has been some capital spending, which is higher, but it's a high percentage, but it's a relatively low amount. At this point, we don't spend a ton as of right now, we don't spend a ton out of our general fund for capital, but that may obviously have to change. And we're in good shape cash flow for the year, a little bit, $3 million year to date, positive. Now, we recognize that we're building cash a little bit, anticipating, we have the renewal of that, of the one levy that comes off this year. Our cash, you see this every month, but our cash balance is trending like it should. We will get our tax settlement here shortly, and that will put us at our peak for the year, and then we spend it down. I want to point out, again, when we talk about cash balance at the end of the year, recognize that is the end of the year, and that's not our lowest cash balance, right? So when we look at the end of the year, you got cash. I look at what the cash balance is going to be in January and February, because that's, when we were back in 2019, 2020, we were having difficulty making payroll at that point, right? We had cash, but it wasn't enough, and we've grown since then. So we'll talk about that more after tomorrow, and we start talking about November a little bit. Just again, blah, blah, blah. It's the same stuff month after month, which is good. We're 67% through the year, and we're just tracking as we expected. And the one thing I'll say is interest earnings continue to be very strong. Star Ohio is a money market. It's paying almost 5% still. That just amazes me. I never thought I'd see those kind of interest rates in my lifetime. It's good on the investment side, obviously not good on the borrowing side, but we'll talk about that here in just a minute. So let me give you, the next big project, if you will, is the 5-year forecast. In May, as you know, twice a year the board has to approve a 5-year forecast. So in May, it'll kind of, what does it look like for this year and then the next 4 years. So I just want to kind of give you a quick snapshot what things I am working on that's going to go in the forecast. Obviously, tomorrow's election will impact that forecast. The building capital for trailers or other spaces that we might have to upgrade to make into student student spaces, so will impact that. Obviously, we don't have our final tax settlement. Once I get that, that'll tell me exactly what our revenue is for the year. And at the end of the month, we have our third income tax payment, so 75% of our income tax will be for the year. So those two will kind of settle where our revenue will end up. And the bond issue, obviously, what our spending is the next couple of years. And then other spending trends. As we know, we're in negotiations right now. And part of that negotiation, obviously, is to be as responsible as we can, because we know we don't have unlimited resources. Our staff is very important to us, and they're probably invaluable, but we don't have, an unlimited bucket of funds to share. And personnel expenses are obviously our biggest expense. The other thing is, when we get there, we'll be talking about next year. We have, each year I forecast projected increases in staffing based on enrollment, and the next finance committee here in a little less than a month, we'll share with them. The personnel committee's already been looking at it, exactly what staff positions are built into the new forecast and why they're there. And then obviously the board will see that all in detail in a work session in May, and then approve it in May. So those are the big pieces coming. So we got some, just as an aside, I did a quick analysis the other day. We did a capital project and upgraded LED lighting in all the district, and did just a rough, hey, what were last year's bills at this time, and what were this year's bills at this time? We've seen $50,000 in savings just in about the 6 months. So we'll take LED lighting in. So, and that's not adjusting for weather or anything like that. There's engineers out there who'll take our bills and see, do all those kind of corrections, but that's $50,000 real dollars that we have not spent on electrical bills because of the lighting upgrade. And of course, part of that project was to pay for that upgrade with our savings. So I'm excited about that and be able to report that. Just to switch gears just one more time. So obviously we have the high school bond issue. This is the last year of assessment. Next year's the last year of it's collection on it. The other bond issue we have is for HBI sitting out there. Well, at the end of this year, a portion of those bonds are callable. That is, we would be able to, hey, investors, we want to buy back those bonds because we maybe get a better interest rate. So we're constantly looking at analysis on whether or not that's a good decision. So we'll look at it a lot between now and the fall, but right now those bonds are callable December 1st. So you do the work before then, but the average interest rate of those bonds is 3.7%. So that was sold back in 2014. Right now, if we did it, our expectation would be about 3.91%. So what does that tell you? Right now, it doesn't look like calling those bonds will be a good idea. But we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, it could change. My expectation is we're not going to see a major change in interest rates. They're going to stay steady about where they are. But if by some miracle they drop, we'll be ready to refinance. So again, the bottom line with this, it's a no-go to refund those bonds at this time. But I just want you to know that we're looking at it, we're paying attention to it, and if we can save the taxpayers some money or reduce the amount of length that we're paying on those bonds, we'll take that action. So anyway, there's your bond lesson for tonight. So.
Well, and a question on this, and sorry I didn't ask you in finance, it just now hit me. And you don't have to answer this right here because I think this is a little deep, but what is the benchmark rate to pay attention to where you start to see that rate trend down? It's
the Fed's 30-year rate is the rate to watch.
And how closely is that to the three? I don't know.
We're actually slightly below that rate.
Yeah, okay.
Because we're tax exempt. These are tax exempt bonds, and our good credit rating. Right. So.
So that rate goes below something, and all of a sudden it's time to.
Yeah.
Do you know what that something is?
No, it's almost again. I always compare it to home mortgage. It's not exactly the same, but what point in time is it worth it to refinance your house?
Yeah.
Right. It's the same decision.
Well, I'm dragging this public meeting into something that the finance geeks want to talk about, so we can talk about it offline.
Oh, this is fun stuff, right?
It is. It is. We can keep going. Sorry. Keep going.
Okay.
Please, keep going.
Eric and I, oh, look
Look
at
at me.
Dr. Reference said this is, move on, move on. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about on your agenda tonight, I'm asking you to do a fund transfer. I just want an explanation. Since I've come on board here, we're trying to clean up our funds, inactive funds, put that money someplace where it could be useful, or someplace that could be more useful. And so this is one of those steps. So on tonight's agenda, for example, we have an 004 fund. It's a capital improvement fund that was established for the hack. And money was put in that, and the hack was partially funded out of that.
Can you explain to people what the hack is?
I can't pronounce it. Hutchinson Center.
There you go. You did. You just
Hutchinson
did.
Center. I
You
couldn't say
just
that the other
did.
day. Hutchinson Center. So it's the field house, if you will, over at the stadium. It has a conference room, locker rooms, weight room, all that. The boosters, as you guys recall, we're going to fund that project. There were some issues. The district took it over. We had some money donated as well as some district funds to do that. That's been done complete for a couple of years now. There's like $14,000 sitting in that fund doing nothing. The bills are paid. So by law, the board can transfer that money out into a permanent improvement fund of some sort, or a capital improvement fund. I would like to put it in general fund, but it would take a court of common pleas agreement to do that. And I didn't think for $14,000 it wasn't worth the legal expenses. So we're going to we'll put it in the PI fund that can be used for our current permanent improvement. So if there's any questions on that, that's on tonight's agenda.
My thought is, given how stretched that PI fund is that Mr. Mapus won't have any problem.
Yeah, he has not argued with it, to be honest, but he's in Florida, so. All right. Any questions from the board then?
Just a comment. There we go. Just a comment. Randy, I really appreciate you deep diving into everything and looking for cost savings for us. I know the money that we're saving with House Bill 264, which everyone calls the lighting project. We do have plenty of other places to spend that have popped up over the last year or two. So thank you. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, I could tell you, it's hard to see sometimes when you look at the size of our budget, but Mr. Mapus in operations, he's tighter than I am, okay? Which is good. You know, we've done some things I think I'm really proud of, and it's nice to get a partner on the operations side feeling the same way. We've set budgets for maintenance and stuff like that, and they've worked really hard to live within those budgets. And it's not always easy because you don't know some of those things are unexpected. So it is a really good partnership in this district. We're trying to be sensitive. Obviously, those things don't solve the issues because obviously personnel is the biggest cost item, but we're taking care of the pennies as best we can. And hopefully that, between personnel and obviously we're making the right decisions on the staff side. That's all I have.
Okay, and can you give a little color around item 7.4?
Please.
Confirming tax commission rates?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
If you remember, way back in January, you approved the tax budget. That was our projection on estimate on receipts and then spending really for the next 18 months. Then what that does, that document goes to the Tax Budget Commission, which is the county auditor, county treasurer, and the county prosecuting attorney. They're the Tax Budget Commission. They take that, then they produce this sheet of what they're going to collect, because they have the authority, and it's actually happened. It's happening in one county where the Tax Budget Commission is saying, we don't think you need the money. They're reducing their millage rates, and they have the ability to do that. But, so this is them, so we're confirming what they've approved, essentially. That's what this does.
So we met the tax budget hearing went over these numbers. You went to the county.
Yep.
They've approved it. Now we are affirming, we are passing these rates.
Yeah, traditionally, it's been almost pro forma, the tax budget, but we might have some questions, particularly on bond issues as you're paying those down. But typically, they don't bat an eye too much on operating side, but the atmosphere is, in some counties, If you have any kind of surplus, they're going, maybe you don't need to have that surplus. And that's unfortunate because they don't always understand school, cash flow. But so this is just confirming these rates match exactly what we expected about it.
Okay.
And going back to Tom's presentation, they reflect really all the millage rates we expect. We're at the 20 mil floor, and then saw a reduction in millage rates on a couple of the other issues as the effective rate dropped.
Very good. Thank you for that. So with that, we will move into item 7.5, which is a vote on the financial information included in item 7.2 to 7.4.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Menke, Ms. Larimer. Roll call, please.
Ms. Minke,
Yes.
Ms. Larimer,
Yes.
Dr. Reffert,
Yes.
Ms. Roland Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Bennington.
Yes. Financial information is approved. Scan the table. I think we look good to keep going. Dr. Reffert's giving me the side eye, but we'll keep going here to board committee discussion. I think Finance Committee, the only other thing that hasn't been said is that we said in Finance that in March, when the presentation's boring, that's a good thing. So good thing that it was a boring presentation. You don't want drama in your numbers this time of year. That'll move into the March 8th Operations Committee. That is Ms. Menke or Ms. Larimer,
Okay, let me
Want some comments on it?
please.
Okay. First of all, Brent, who is in charge of IT, talked about replacement of Wi-Fi, which was actually put in 2015, so it is dated. We did pass a cybersecurity screening and received a Tier 1 rating, which helps us with the cost of insurance, which is always nice. They are looking now at, we have over 600 security cameras within the district, and some of those are in need of replacement. And then there's also issues cybersecurity-wise with the outside vendors who use the network with their equipment, because, simple things like refrigerators and things like that are talking back and forth across the network. We are having issues in food service with the sourcing of local fruits and vegetables. We did receive a grant, and unfortunately, I don't know if I have the amount in here on that one. I think it's
145,000.
145,000. Okay, thank you, Sue. Also, there's a company coming in that will be sampling some cultural foods to add a little variety. So far, what they have done with BB Bop and some of the other food groups that have come in, it's been wildly popular with the kids. Food costs are up 6%, and that, I think, is mainly, it affects us especially with commodities. Other than that, congratulations to our, to Denise there in food service, who got to go to the LEC in DC. They've also asked her to be on it was a national network, correct, Sue?
Mm-hmm.
And she will be attending the national conference. And then Courtney, who is in charge of our transportation, she is also going to a conference down in Texas with what she's dealt with the program that they're using to go paperless with the bus routing. And I think that's basically it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next.
Might want to add also in there as a heads up, so that y'all know, in case anybody asks, there's going to be an alternate transportation form has always been available, but for next year, there will be one morning, and that was a little bit confusing in the notes, if you were wondering what that meant. A parent will have a choice of one morning pickup and one afternoon pickup for the entire week, for the entire year. No more of the back and forth, and it changes every 2 days and all of that kind of stuff. It just can't handle it. So that will be a change for the upcoming year. Did I get that right, Brooke? Yeah, okay.
Just to add, somebody should add in the 5-year forecast, we probably have to add some buses in there too. That we may buy out of permanent improvement, but we may have to buy buses out of general fund. And, our buses are full.
Mm-hmm.
And that's driving the only having one choice for alternative routes, because parents want kids, every other Thursday in the morning and stuff, and our transportation department just don't have enough seats.
Mm-hmm. And buses at a cost, we heard earlier, $120,000 a bus.
Yeah, we're buying propane buses now. They're a little bit more expensive than the diesel, but you save that difference easily in the first year.
Sure.
That's amazing. And they're yellow and with black accents, and they're super flashy, so come out and drive one.
All right, the only other committee it looks like we had since our last meeting was the curriculum committee. The agenda was pretty robust, which is why I'm going to let Ms. Roland Miller give the update. It was a good meeting.
Item 14.1 that we'll be voting on as part of the consent agenda is the school fees, which were mentioned last month, and they're pretty much as we talked about last month, so I won't say anything more about that. I think a couple other things. There is in April, there'll be a meeting of the District Math Committee, which is a group that really looks at the whole spectrum of students' experience in math and where to accelerate them, and then opportunity for parents to hear about that, and especially if a student is going to be skipping pretty much a year of math, how they kind of backfill that and opportunities for that. So it's a wonderful, takes a lot of extra time for teachers and administrators, but I think what it's doing for the students and then communicating that with the families is really helpful. We talked a lot about wit and wisdom again, and that's again the reading curriculum for the science of reading that will be part of the curriculum next year, and all of the professional development in particular to have the educators, teachers ready to use that and the complexity of that with a couple different training sessions. There's a couple videos in the PowerPoint from our meeting that are about those professional development opportunities. And then the rest of that was really about curricular review, and that they'll be moving into the third year for the first time next year. That's quite an undertaking. And again, that attempt to look at everything a student is learning from the day they walk in the school to the day they graduate. And it's a Herculean task, but really benefiting the students, so.
Yep.
We've talked about one of the cost items that is the wit and wisdom, the science of reading. We've got some, guidance is probably too strong of a term, huh, Mr. Schwartzmiller? Some guidance that we'll be getting some state funding on it, and essentially I read the guidance is when it shows up, you'll know what you got.
So
There you
again,
go, good.
we can reiterate, this is another unfunded mandate from the state of Ohio that's
I
costing
expect that we'll get pennies
on the dollar.
on the dollar.
So a rough estimate for how much it costs for that curriculum?
It's 300,000, isn't it?
No. Isn't it more than that?
But what-
The
350,000.
initial
The initial.
expenditure is $350, but then there's ongoing annual expenses that didn't
Plus
exist when
training.
you had a
Right.
textbook or.
So they didn't look at our reading scores, it was just a state mandate across the state. And go ahead and do it, but don't give us any money for it.
Yeah,
Thank
and,
you, State
and
of Ohio.
talk about some of those other costs that are related to this training. So credit to Mr. Schwartzmiller and his team and all of the professional staff that are going to embark in what is a very aggressive professional development that Ms. Roland Miller alluded to. That's going to require being in substitutes because children still need to be taught that day as well as they're doing this professional development so that we can get it up and running in the very constrained time frame that, I forgot what the new acronym in and I thought I had it.
Do.
The Department of Education and
ODEW.
Workforce has put upon the district, so.
They don't like being called.
Best of luck, Mr. Schwartzmiller, and to the teachers in doing that. And you're right, it is an unfunded mandate with even hidden costs that.
And that
we
comes
haven't
out of
thought
our
about.
general fund.
That's what we're getting at.
I know.
Okay.
It's just, thank you.
All right, I don't believe there were any other committees that met, so thank you for those updates.
Oh, out
Oh.
Perrysburg School Foundation, excuse me.
Thank you, Ms. Larimer. Please, would love to hear what is going on with.
Yeah, our own
Foundation.
Justin Foltz was the guest speaker, and he spoke about something that I actually wanted him to present at Capitol Conference, and he kind of chickened out. But he was talking about the ROCKS and the MVP programs that they're doing, and basically gave them an idea as the foundation of where the money that they've spent is going, how well it's working, and then, of course, he asked for some more. So that's what we do on the foundation, so that will be coming up. The other thing was, since we were talking about some of the things that the foundation actually does, is that they paid for our symphony and select strings to go down for a conference in Kentucky. I'm not sure when that was. I know they did a preview concert last Thursday, and this is a huge, huge honor to go down to this, to be asked to go and to compete. It's kind of like the Olympics of all of this, and they did outstandingly well when they did that before. But before, if you've got your calendars out, I wanted you to mark down Thursday, May 2nd at Belmont, which will be the scholarship banquet for our two newbies. That is really a wonderful event where the scholarships and things that the foundation provides for. I know Gretchen had one in there from her husband, and I mean all these scholarships that Perrysburg provides and is managed by the foundation. We honor those students that night. They actually get those scholarships, and it's a real celebration of excellence in academia. That said, I will not be able to be there because I'm going to be in Columbus at a conference. So this is a little earlier than normal if you're wondering about that. There was also something in student leadership, student achievement liaison that I thought was really interesting, and I didn't know if you had seen it. It's down at Sebring Schools, and their junior high kids got together. Now, I don't know that we could do this because they used an unused classroom. That is not in our vocabulary at this particular point. I think we'd have to, we don't have anything that's unused at this point. But it was so ingenious what these kids did that through donations and through their own cleaning of closets, they created a used clothing store, so that kids could go in that needed a coat, that needed socks, that needed a sweatshirt, old Spirit wear, whatever. They could go in and they could go shop. And so they're learning the economics of managing something like that. I mean, it was really a cool program. So I brought that with me. I printed it out if you wanted to read it. It's right here. Legislatively, there's not a whole lot going on per se, just because they're too busy campaigning right now. But I was asked about the Parents' Bill of Rights, and I said, well, I have to stop and think about that. Wasn't that a while ago? And it was, passed on June 21st, 2023 in the House. And so I spoke with our Senator, Senator Teresa Gavarone, and she said, well, that's kind of sitting in the Senate committee. So for a year, almost, it's been sitting there. So if you have any questions about what that bill does, just come up and ask me later, and I can let you know. And the Lieutenant Governor has been busy. He orchestrated an AI toolkit for teachers and policymakers. I have a lengthy link to that if you want, but it's part of the Innovate Ohio project. And so he orchestrated this, and it really is for teachers and policymakers like ourselves, and how to use AI for our betterment. So that's committees that I'm on that clears that pile. Sorry, that was about as brief as I could do it.
That was impressively brief, Ms. Larimer. Thank you. No, thank you for that update. Always appreciate how you're paying attention to what's going on down there in Columbus for us. Okay, that now moves us into the consent agenda. The consent agenda is going to cover items 10, starting with the board minutes, through item 14, I believe. Yes. 14.2 fundraisers. So can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved?
Second.
Ms. Larimer, Dr. Reffert? Any discussion on any items contained within consent?
Nope.
Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Larimer,
Yes.
Dr. Reffert,
Yes.
Ms. Minke,
Yes.
Ms. Rowland Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Bennington.
Yes, consent agenda passes. Next item, we have other items for consideration on the non-consent agenda, and that is participation in the Fair School Funding Plan at a cost of $1,530. You have a write-up here in the public commentary section. Can I have a motion to accept that item?
So moved?
Ms. Larimer?
Second.
Ms. Menke? Any further discussion?
For anybody who wants to scream about that, because I kind of like knee-jerked a little bit over it and thought, wait a minute, this is how we help solve the maniacal problems, or some of the maniacal problems going on down at the state concerning school funding. And I think this is very important for us to make sure that our superintendent and Mr. Pendleton and all the others can continue their work to make sure that the legislature doesn't make any more of a mess of it than they already did from the beginning. I totally agree with Teresa Federer that it belonged outside of the budget plan, that it belonged as its own law. Barring that, to me, this is advantageous to try and help get school funding fixed. And this is our investment saying that that's what we want.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. This is another piece of the advocacy that we are being asked, we're being asked to do. And this helps, continue to elevate the work that Mr. Hostler does down there that we talked about earlier in the meeting.
And I'm really looking forward to this being implemented 100%. In no way does this yet solve where the money is coming from, but it takes care of our students and the needs of what it costs to educate those students.
Certainly moves us in the right direction.
Yep. Can't leave it up to
And
the
just to
legislature.
put in perspective that the cost to participate is about one student's state funding. So,
Fix it for one student, we've
one
made money.
student.
Thank you for that perspective.
Just to confirm, you'd like to call Aunt Nancy Corio mobile. Just
in Rotary, that's a $5 fine.
You can put it towards the general fund there, Laura.
Let's get Aunt Nancy on the phone.
Yeah, mine's on airplane mode.
She may want to vote on this. All right, I'm going to call the question. Roll call, please.
Ms. Larimer,
Yes?
Ms. Minke,
Yes.
Dr. Reffert,
Yes.
Ms. Rowland Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Bennington.
Yes. Next item, any board discussion on any new business?
I wanted to briefly discuss something that was brought to my attention. I should probably keep a copy. Did I get a copy for myself? I think I have it right here. Okay. All right, oh, there it is. I was contacted by a community member over something I know nothing about, really, because it's athletics. And what I did here was write up his vision and reasons, which he gave to me very succinctly, about creating an athletic oversight committee. I'm not looking, especially since we have an executive session tonight, for you to respond unless you want to right now, but I wanted to give you this information and why he and many parents feel that this is a good idea and something that needs to be looked at. This animal could become a lot of different things. It could become nothing. But I thought that the way that he presented it to me, we've had two pretty lengthy conversations about this, were interesting for you to read. Think about it, jot down some notes. If you have any questions, please email me, and I can try and find the answers for you. But I thought we should take a look at what this group of parents are asking us to consider. And one thing after nigh on 11 years I have learned is that anything that seems like, well, gee, why haven't we done that? Or gee, that should be easy to do. There's always 101 dominoes that have to occur or fall in order for something to happen. And truly, this does not address any of those dominoes. This is their thoughts, their ideas, what they would like to see, very succinctly put. So that's what I want to present to you now, so that you can look at it, and maybe we can talk about it at a work session or something when we've got the time to do it. I don't want to dump this on you, but I wanted to give you the information for it.
Okay, so take a read through this. Questions back to Ms. Larimer?
Yeah.
And we will take it up again. Any other new business, any other board discussion, any other new business? Hearing none, we did not have any earlier public participation sign up for this session. So next, I am looking for an executive session for the purpose of preparing for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees. There will be, assuming we go into executive session, there will be no decisions made coming out of it. So can I have a motion for the executive session for that said purpose?
So moved.
Ms. Larimer?
Second.
Ms. Roland Miller? Roll call, please.
Ms. Larimer,
Yes.
Ms. Roland Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Ruffert,
Yes.
Ms. Minke,
Yes.
Mr. Bennington.
Yes, after a 10-minute break, we will start executive session. Yeah, down here.
Oh, we don't have to move?
No, we're not going to move. No.